Vad betyder vars på svenska? Hur ska vi använda det i svenska? What does vars mean in Swedish and how should we apply it in Swedish? Now, let's start with two examples in which vars are used. The first example, första exemplet. Jag träffade min kompis Jerry, vars mamma är min brors lärare. Jag träffade min kompis Jerry, vars mamma är min brors lärare. In this case, vars is actually equivalent to whose in English. So if I translate this sentence into English, it would be, I met my friend Jerry, whose mother is my brother's teacher. Whose. Men låt oss titta på nästa exempel. Jag köpte ett skrivbord vars ben inte är så stadiga. Jag köpte ett skrivbord vars ben inte är så stadiga. I bought a table, the legs of which is not so stable. So now maybe you are a little bit confused because we've just said that vars can be translated as whose, but now it seems like we cannot translate this into whose in the second example. Yes, you're right, we cannot, because vars is not only whose. Vars is also something else. Vars is, in this case, of which. So in the first case, vars can be translated into whose in English, and the second case, vars is translated into of which, so the legs of which. But let's look at the function of vars. So the function of vars is actually to mark the relationship of the two nouns before and after vars. The noun after vars belongs to the noun before. So vars is actually marking the ownership. So Jerry's mother. The mother belongs to Jerry. The table's legs. The legs belongs to the table. And it doesn't matter if it's a person or if it's an object. We use vars in Swedish. Now, let's do a test. Nu ska vi göra en test. Hur ska vi översätta I have a friend whose mother is the prime minister. How to translate I have a friend whose mother is a prime minister into Swedish. Jag har en kompis vars mamma är statsminister. Jag har en kompis vars mamma är statsminister. Fråga nummer 2. Question number 2. How to translate I've bought a book, the author of which is my friend. Jag har köpt en bok vars författare är min kompis. Jag har köpt en bok vars författare är min kompis. Bra jobbat! Nu ska vi repetera några andra ord som liknar vars. Now let's repeat 3 other words that looks quite alike vars, but they are totally different. Let's begin with var. Vi börjar med var. Vad betyder var? What does var mean? Det betyder where. Här har vi ett exempel. Var är du? Var är du betyder where are you? Var är ett frågeord. It is a question word in Swedish. Du kan också säga vart ska du åka på svenska? Vart ska du åka? Vart betyder to where. To where you travel. Det är också ett frågeord. Det betyder att du frågar efter inriktning. You are asking about the direction rather than a place. So, var is a place. Vart is a direction. To where. Now, let's do a test together. Hur ska vi översätta? How should we translate? Stockholm is a place where you can encounter different cultures. Stockholm is a place where you can encounter different cultures. Yes. Stockholm är en plats där du kan möta olika kulturer. I'm so sorry, this is actually a trap. Here you shouldn't translate where into var because this where in English is actually a subjunction. It is not a question word. Do you remember we talked about var is the question word in Swedish? It is not the subjunction in Swedish. The subjunction to describe a place in Swedish is actually där. Stockholm är en plats där du kan möta olika kulturer. Om du använder var, då blir det fel på svenska. So if you use var, it's actually wrong because the grammar rules are not matched in two languages. In English, where is both a question word and a subjunction. But in Swedish, var is only the question word, not subjunction. Okej, nästa fråga, the next question. Hur ska vi översätta? How should we translate? Stockholm is a place to where many tourists travel. Stockholm is a place to where many tourists travel. Stockholm är en plats dit många turister reser. Stockholm är en plats dit många turister reser. Det är också en fälla. It's the other trap. So here you shouldn't translate to where directly to vart or till var because it doesn't really work in the same way in Swedish. You should use dit. Dit is the subjunction for a direction in Swedish. En plats dit många turister reser, a place to where many tourists travel. Nästa fråga, the next question. I'm wondering where you are. I'm wondering where you are. Is it a trap? What does where mean here? Is it a subjunction or is it a question word? Yes, the correct answer should be Jag undrar var du är. Jag undrar var du är. Here, you should use var because it is a question word here. I'm wondering where you are. If you compare with the first sentence, a place where, it is a place where you can. So where is to describe the place further. So it's a subjunction. And in Swedish, you use där in this function. But in this case, I'm wondering where you are. Where is not describing wondering. No, it is to raise an indirect question. So it's still a question word. So in this case, you should use var. Now, maybe you feel a little bit confusing, a little bit frustrated. Maybe you also feel it's quite overwhelming with these grammar rules. So now I have some tips for you. Jag har några tips till dig. Först, översätt inte subjunktioner direkt från engelska. Don't translate the subjunctions directly from English because a very high % chance you would do mistakes if you try to translate subjunctions. Probably it's better, it's more feasible to translate verbs or nouns, but subjunctions, stay away from them. Don't translate directly from English. And don't use Google Translate for them either. 2. Fokusera på subjunktionernas funktioner på svenska. Focus on the functions of the subjunctions in Swedish rather than relying on the translation or in English. So for example, when we talk about the translation for var and when we talk about what var means, so we shouldn't feel too comfortable when we know, okay, var means where. We should be cautious. We should be cautious about var in this specific case means where, but it doesn't really mean it always means where. So don't be too comfortable with the English translation. Rather, we should focus more on the function of it. So we should actually think about, okay, var is a question word. This is the crucial information we should take in. Okay, this is a question word. I understand this. I can use it to raise a question in Swedish rather than relying on the translation too much. 3. Memorera och använda några exempelmeningar i svenska. To memorize and use several example sentences in Swedish. It will help you to create a good structure, and then it will make you more confident because you know the example structure is correct. Till exempel, Stockholm är en stad där jag kan. Stockholm is a city where I can. You can memorize this structure and you can replace the city, replace the verb, replace the subordinate clause and make it your own. Till exempel, Paris är en stad där jag kan bla bla bla. Okej, lycka till med den här delen. Nu ska vi repetera sista ordet, vara. Now, let's repeat the last word, vara. Vara means to be. So, to be in English is also an irregular word. If you think about be, to be, the present tense in English is or are, and the past tense is were or was. So it's also irregular in English. It is also irregular in Swedish. So let's begin with the imperative form. Imperativ form. Imperativ form of vara är var. Så var inte blyg. Var inte blyg betyder don't be shy. Don't be shy. Var inte blyg. Infinitiv form är vara. Vara. Han vill inte vara där. He don't want to be there. To be. So vara. So in English, infinitive form and imperative form is the same, but in Swedish it's not the same. Var is the imperative form, vara the infinitive form. Presens är, det är samma för plural eller singular. Är is the same for I and for you and for him or for they. It's always är. Jag är här. Var är du? I am here. Where are you? Jag är här. Var är du? Var här är preteritumform till vara. So the past tense is var. Jag var där igår. Var var du? I was there yesterday. Where were you? Så här ser du. Första var betyder where. Det andra var är were. Where were you? Var var du? Presens perfekt har varit. Har varit. Have been. Jag har varit i Paris många gånger. I've been in Paris many times. Okej, nu ska vi göra en test för att repetera den sista delen. Hur ska vi översätta It was nice to meet you? How should we translate It was nice to meet you into Swedish? Det var trevligt att träffas. Det var trevligt att träffas. Eller du kan också säga det var trevligt att träffa dig. Det är också korrekt. Nästa. Where were you yesterday? Hur ska vi översätta det? How should we translate this? Where were you yesterday? Var var du igår? Var var du igår? Where were you yesterday? Okej, det är allting för idag. Tack så jättemycket för att du lyssnar och tittar på den här videon. That's everything for today and thank you so much for watching. See you next time. Hej då!